Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dawn of Drones podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldai, your host and the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting. Great to have you back. You know, I don't know where the month of February went, but it's ending, and so is our Dual Use Technologies Month, sponsored by Northrop Grumman. So we wanted to thank Northrop for sponsoring this incredible month. For those of you that may have missed some of our back episodes, like with Rob Menti, United States Army Colonel retired from Northrop, or you know, we had Mobilicom, another Israeli company, on a couple weeks ago. Check those out. DroneLife TV YouTube channel. You can always find all of our episodes back there on demand. But in the meantime, we are live. So just a reminder to engage with us in the chat. Tell us where you're from, what you're doing. Tell us, ask us questions. We have an incredible guest today from Elsight, also from Israel, Yoav Amitai. So Yoav, welcome.
Hi, Don. Nice to be here in the show for the first time.
I know. Yoav mentions this because Elsight as a company was previously on the podcast back in November for Innovation Month. Two of their other folks were on here, and it was a great conversation. Again, you can go back and find that. So great to see you, Yoav. Yoav and I actually have never met, but we have met virtually many times, including this past January during Edge 2022. I was on the stage, Lady Gaga's stage in Las Vegas, at the park, MGM Park, Dolby Theater. And Yoav was on a big screen behind me. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later in the podcast. But as kind of a throwback to that, I did wear my sparkly, you know, Lady Gaga Beyond Visual Line of Sight outfit here for Yoav and for everybody. So more to follow there. But anyway, so great to have you. Let's start a little bit with talking about you and your background, because you're the CEO and co-founder of Elsight. So tell us a little bit about, you know, kind of what led you to that.
Yeah, so definitely the CEO. I'm not part of the founding team of Elsight, but I joined the company 5 years ago. I definitely part of the transition that the company made from general connectivity to unmanned, but we'll talk about it later. I want to start with my background, as you asked. So I'm starting from with engineering background. Started my career there. Pretty quickly understand that for me, engineering is very nice as a hobby or something I really like to do, solve problems and everything. But I even more like to work with people, both on solving challenges, business, etc., etc. So this way, where my career is starting to lean more towards the managerial path, I will call it. Then joining to Elsight 5 years ago. After I met with the founders, we had a very good connection, and the rest of history is history. You know, since then I'm with the company. We went through many exciting moments during this time. Obviously, challenges as well as every other company or every other startup. But really excited to be here on the show today and be leading Elsight into this very exciting moment that we are currently going through.
Well, it absolutely is an exciting moment. You know, we are in Dual Use Technologies Month, Yoav, and if memory serves, you know, Elsight really began working quite, in the beginning with the Israeli military. Is that right? The Ministry of Defense?
Yeah, correct. So Elsight was founded basically to solve the Ministry of Defense, the Israeli Ministry of Defense problems, mainly for video backhauling. So the first product was to stream video from the field, from tactical units, not talking about unmanned system whatsoever. I'm talking about actually people walking the streets or walking whatever they are, streaming video backwards to the command and control and headquarters, both in the industry, in the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Interior for all the homeland security purposes, from police, fire departments, etc., etc. This is where we started, and this is where our roots are and our legacy is. of providing connection confidence. I will continue to say it. It's not the last time you hear this term from me.
I know that's your tagline, right? Complete connection confidence. I love the 3C. You have your own 3Cs.
Absolutely. So this is how we started. That was our background, and we're actually still serving those customers on a different applications and use cases we're doing with them. So yeah, definitely this is where we started. And since we're talking about connectivity, if to say in 2 words what Elsight is about, so I gave a hint by saying that we provide connection confidence. So Elsight is a connectivity solution, hardware, software-based connectivity solution that provide optimized wireless network in general. So speaking of dual usage, this technology can fit into many different use cases. We chose to focus on unmanned, and we will elaborate on that probably later in this conversation. But I would say that think about communication or reliable communication in general. This is something that today, during COVID or post-COVID or whatever you would like to call it, it's something that is extremely important. I mean, today that everything is remote, you know, you're standing in your home, I'm staying in my home in Israel. People are working remotely, getting their school remotely, work from home, healthcare services from home, etc., etc. So communication became a very substantial or a very critical infrastructure as water and electricity. So it's the same level of water and electricity. And if you will ask me, I would say honestly that I would prefer to sit in the dark but have my Wi-Fi connected. So I'd rather have Wi-Fi and not have power. So this is why I spoke about the perfect storm and what Elsight is in a very exciting moment, because not talking only about the unmanned industry, and we'll talk about it a lot, our technologies also have a lot of use cases on other areas, other segments, other markets that can be benefits from what we're providing from our solution. So yeah, definitely perfectly fit for dual usage technologies.
Well, let's kind of transition from, you know, this idea of live streaming videos and those critical communications that are needed, you know, homeland security and on the battlefield, you know, back to an ops center as an example, and how that then translated into your Halo product, which is specifically for beyond visual line of sight operations for drones.
Correct. So over the time when we started to work with video application, like I said, backhaul video streaming for ops rooms or whatever, we understood that our main asset is to create a reliable communication, and not only for video, but for any purpose that it needs to be on the move, to be mobile, and to have this critical communication between the edge, whatever the edge is, and a central station or a central headquarter, let's call it. And then we start to think about what is the market that will need us the most, because part of our challenge, speaking of challenges, is that we have an enabling technology on one side. On the other side, you know, we are a small company, we are limited in resources, so we need to choose what we're focused on and where we put our eggs. And we cannot say we're going to shoot all direction and we will succeed in everything. So we try to be extremely focused, and after doing a lot of market analysis and trying to understand where our technology will have the best market fit, we figure out that in the unmanned world, there is an extremely big challenge of reliable communication for any vehicle, by the way, not only flying drones, but also ground vehicles, etc., etc. So this is how we transit from let's call it general purpose communication to specifically design the Halo for, like you said, beyond visual line of sight application, and every size of drones or a flying platform basically can put today the Halo, because it's so small and so lightweight, and the power consumption is so low. What we call the swap ratio is so good, so it can go into any flying platform and can be the enabler, again, like you said, for the beyond visual line of sight operations.
Yeah, so I want to back up and talk about a couple things. Number one, I'm very sensitive to acronyms. So when you say the swap ratio, you're talking about size, weight, and power.
Right.
For all those out there that didn't know what that was. You know, as you were talking, I was almost laughing, Yoav, because you said we wanted to put our eggs in one place and not be throwing, I just got this image of you throwing eggs everywhere. You clearly put your eggs in the right basket, and just kind of to foot stomp what that basket is. It's not just drones, it's all autonomous systems, all domain vehicles that we're talking about here. Although many people that watch this podcast are more in the unmanned or uncrewed aircraft ecosystem. And then also, just to kind of put a fine point on what you said earlier, just so everybody's really clear about this, Elsight's technologies are not just for all domain vehicles, but this communication confidence he's talking about is across the board, for even things like remote operations for schools and things like this. So this is all really important. I just wanted to kind of highlight that. The other thing, Yoav, I wanted to do super quick is give a shout out to Desi. Desi Eckstein is from Women in Drones. She's coming to us from Southern California. She's saying hello. So great to see you out there, Desi. Thanks so much for your support. And before you go is a regular here, and had a question for you, Yoav. The question is, does Elsight mean quote unquote God sees? Question mark. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I mean, I think you also spoke about it on the last podcast with Benny and Scott when you asked where the Elsight name came from. So yeah, Elsight, El in Hebrew, it's like God, and sight is sight. So yeah, that's how it's translated. Yes.
And I love the kind of the play on that theme, if you will, because your product, your seminal product we're going to be talking about right now, is called Halo.
Right.
And when you think about the heavenly product that's going to allow people to see from afar, like for beyond visual line of sight, autonomous vehicle operations, Halo is it. So
Absolutely.
let's talk a little bit about Halo and actually how it works. I know we talked a little bit about this on Clubhouse last Thursday. By the way, everybody, that replay is also available if you go to Clubhouse. And I know the Elsight team pushed that out on LinkedIn, so follow them there. I've put that out as well. But tell us about Halo and exactly what it does to make this confidence connection that you're talking about.
Yeah, so how the magic happens. So the Halo, like I said, is a hardware software solution. Basically, we created and developed and keep developing. We call it a black box. We definitely basically doing this magic. And what the magic does is that we are creating an abstract layer on top of the physical connection layer to provide this connection for confidence. And how exactly it happens is that we're connected to the platform in the edge on the field. Whatever the platform is, like you said, let's talk about flying drones, and you have the video or any other sensor that you might have on board, and you have the control, you have the telemetry, you have everything that needs to be streamed to somewhere else, right? Either to the cloud or to the pilot ground station, etc., etc. So what happens is every piece of data is going from, like I said, either the sensor of the flight computer or anything going into our product. What our product is doing is, first of all, encrypting the data. So we are encrypting so it will be fully secured. Then we break the data into parts and split those parts through different links. So basically what we're doing, we are aggregating multiple links. So it can be multiple cellular links. For example, in the US, we can put on our system SIM cards from AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, US Cellular, FirstNet, even all those kind of SIM cards can be inserted into our product. And basically, what we're doing, we're working with all of them concurrently. So, like I said, we're taking the data from the platform, break it into part, and each piece is going through a different channel. On the other side, we have a cloud that collects all those units. And when I'm saying cloud, by the way, it can either be real cloud on our infrastructure or the customer premises, depend. Sometimes we're talking about government organization. They want to have their fully on-prem system, which is completely designed by our system. But basically, there we are recombining all those pieces together and provide it to the application or stream it to the application. Everything that I mentioned create three main benefits. First of all, reliability, like I said, we're constantly looking or making sure that all the links are connected. And if not, the system will automatically understand that one of the links was broken and will restream the data through a different link. So we have a full redundancy between all those links that I just mentioned. And by the way, the cellular, like I said, it's only one example. We can integrate into it also satellite or any kind of point-to-point communication. So everything can be integrated into this abstract layer that I mentioned before. The second benefit is the bandwidth. Today, if you want to stream high quality video or any other sensor that you want to stream, again, from the platform to the headquarters or to the pilot ground station, you want to have a high bandwidth so you can deliver higher quality video or higher quality insights from the field. So also, again, because we're aggregating all of those links together and not working one by one, so think about it, if you will get 5 megabits per second, for example, from each one of the cellular carriers, combining all of those together will give you 20 megabits per second. Then you can deliver much higher quality video or anything you want to deliver through this tunnel. And awesome. the tunnel is bidirectional. You can work both sides. So even if you want to send commands from the field to the control center and vice versa, it's completely transparent for you, and everything works like plug and play experience that you just put it on board, plug it on, put the power, and you are connected to whatever you want to be connected to. And the third is the security. And this is extremely important, especially if we're talking about government organizations. So we don't want anyone to take over flying drones, then he can crash it into someone, or even less than that, even just manipulate the data or seeing the video that the police force is seeing or the fire department is seeing or whomever. We want it to be fully secure. And again, because of our background and how the system design, we take security and cybersecurity in general to a very high level. So that's the three main benefits that you can get. And on top of it, because we're very deep into the BVLOS market, we understand what are the challenges within this market and what are the different features that the operators need, the pilot needs, etc., etc. So we're providing full suite of solutions that will give the best beyond visual line of sight, the best BVLOS operation enablement with our technology, just like you did on the stage in Vegas, like you mentioned. So think about it. All the story that I just told was completely transparent for you. You just click a button and you did it from the stage in Vegas, and it happened here in Israel, like 8 hours.
I was going to say, Yoav, that's probably a great segue to actually roll a piece of that video. But before we do, Mike, my producer that's out there in the background, I want to set the stage, literally, give a little context here. So first of all, Yoav is here today, and actually I was on the stage in Vegas, essentially as a Carahsoft partner. So Carahsoft is a government IT, is the premier government IT reseller that focuses on, IT solutions, but including UAS or UAV solutions for federal, state, local, tribal, territorial governments. And it was through Carahsoft that I introduced Elsight to be a partner, and that we were all involved in the the Government Business Executive Forum's Edge 2022 in Las Vegas. So what you're going to see now is a part of about a 3-hour, 2.5-hour show that we put on the stage there in Vegas. The first hour consisted of demos. And your partners, Yoav, Highlander, also from Israel, incorporate your Halo product into their drones. So who you're going to see on this video is me, and I believe you're going to see Alon Abelson, who is the CEO of Highlander, talking this through. But I'm on the stage. They set me up on my own computer to basically command a mission from Las Vegas in Israel. And so without saying a little bit more, let's go ahead and roll that, Mike, if you don't mind, and we can talk about it after. Telling me that it's waiting for the response. Okay, there it goes. It moved. There it goes. So we are Yay! So there is a little bit of a delay, when you're in the state, on a stage in Las Vegas and you're flying a drone in Israel. There's a little bit of a lag, but it worked. I did it.
It's probably a problem with the software, not with the connectivity, unless Yoav will kill me. So let's leave it there. So the drone is flying to the location, the place that you sent him. You can play, after you will be at the location, you can play with the eye. And from this point, you will change where the drone looking at. So if you are dragging the eye to another location, it will switch to another point of interest. And that's it. You are flying the drone from Las Vegas. Actually, from this point, you are a certified drone pilot behind visual line of sight.
There you go. Okay, like I hope nobody from the FAA is here. I'm like flying in Israel, you know, I'm sure that's legit.
All right. Clearly, I was so excited because I pushed a button and I made a drone move in Israel. I mean, super cool. And tell us a little bit about, about that, Yoav, because you were also in the background. I know you came into the demo a little bit later to explain Halo to the crowd there.
Yeah, so people ask me actually that, are we crazy? Are you crazy? And together with Highlander, I must give a big shout out to Highlander team as well that took the opportunity absolutely. And since they have so high confidence in their technology and our technology, and having someone remotely, I mean, sometimes or usually when you're doing live demos on stage, you always fear that Murphy will come and something will go wrong. And even if especially if you're doing it from, virtually, and if you have someone that was never trained properly on the system, etc., etc. But yeah, that's you. But again, having this confidence in the ease of usage in the system and the reliability of the system, gave us the confidence to do such a demo, and we are very comfortable to do those kinds of demos again, because we're talking about, I mean, when people ask me what do we optimize our product for, we optimize for reliability and safety. I think that if we're talking about BVLOS, and we can elaborate on that, I think those are the main factors if we want to do it right. And so the industry will understand that we're not talking about hobbyist platforms. We're talking about commercial platforms that need to fly and need to be extremely safe. I just had a call with ex-FAA official the other day, and he said that, when was the last time that we had an accident in the US for commercial flights? That was more than 15 years ago, and this is how safe you need those systems to be. And this is what I said, that when we optimize for safety and reliability, this is the result you're getting. And again, having the necessary redundancy, don't have a single point of failure, making sure that those systems are designed correctly. I think this is what the industry needs to grow to its full potential. And this is what we're doing in Elsight. And with our partners in general, we are trying to pick them very accurately to make sure that we're working with those that are the serious players. And I think all the ecosystem are there actually. But there is, we need to do as an ecosystem, as an industry, we need to go through a market education, I would say, or even society education, in starting with safety and making sure that every operation ends like it should end, and we won't have any accident or anything like that, because any scenario that ends bad will give bad name for the entire industry. It doesn't matter if it's our competitors or not. We don't want it to happen. So this is why we think, and this is why we believe that this is what the industry should optimize for.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, just to kind of go back, right? I mean, we talk about magic, but a lot of work, effort, and your incredibly robust technology went into that demo. I mean, we did practice that multiple times. Highlander did have observers in Israel. By the way, we also, Highlander and Elsight, with Elsight on board and the Halo on board, did also simultaneously fly a drone in Miami, Florida, and also in North Carolina. One of those was an over-the-water kind of search and rescue scenario, all at the same time, beamed in live, at Las Vegas. So, to your point, Yoav, I mean, safety is no joke. I will tell you, from my perspective, I'll use an air quotes operator, because right now I'm, a recreational drone pilot, hoping to get my Part 107 in the United States this summer. We'll more to follow there. But, you know, for me, it was so easy and transparent. And like you said, you know, people go back and watch this video and look at the screen that was up, you could see, you know, the video displays that were available to show where the drone was, you know, how to move it. It was, you know, honestly, as you said, an untrained person. It was so simple for me to do. And I think that really speaks volumes to a couple things you mentioned. Number one, this idea of reliability. Number two, this, you know, you kind of alluded to it, but autonomy and artificial intelligence and how you've incorporated this into the product to make those, you know, connections, the sniffing of those connections, if you will, lack of a better term, you know, seamless to the user.
Right.
You know, to me, it was magic. I know it wasn't because there's science and technology behind this, but, you know, hats off to Elsight and, you know, for everything you're doing, because this is a game changer. So let's talk about, you know, this, and not only is it, you know, proven from, you know, the stage in Las Vegas, you've been flying drone missions beyond visual line of sight pretty routinely in Israel. Can you tell us about that initiative, how that's going? Because I believe, you know, Scott and Benny talked about, what is it Nama?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the big projects in Israel with I'll call them the Israeli FAA and the Innovation Authority in Israel, is that Israel is trying to be in the forefront of this industry, trying to push regulation, trying to see how the future will look like in terms of the airspace in general with lower flying platforms. So we have a program called NAMA, which is an acronym. It's acronym in Hebrew, but it stands for unmanned aerial robotics operation in urban areas. And what we're currently doing is in March 20, I think, if I recall correctly the dates, we will start the fifth event of this program. You all more than welcome to come to Israel and visit and see how it's look like. It started very small with just a bunch of companies working in the same airspace, you know, testing how it's look like to have multiple companies working in the same airspace. And now we're talking about it's every time it's happening for 2 weeks, and they're doing thousands of missions on the same airspace, on the same corridors, with tens of drones flying on those corridors. And this is how the industry will look like when we'll try to imagine how the airspace will look like in the future. This is how it will look like, because you'll have drones from different manufacturer, different operator operating in the same space for different use cases. So from homeland security to commercial security or private security, let's call it, or last mile deliveries, or whatever, search and rescue, like you said, different scenarios on the same airspace. And everything somehow needs to be managed and need to be safe. Again, going back to the availability and safety. And this is what's happening in Israel currently. So there are multiple companies working, or multiple operators working on the same airspace. They have everyone, by the way, we are happy to say, always happy to say that everyone's that try to work without Halo in this program actually fail, because they're going in to long distances, BVLOS, and not necessarily long distances, but in crowded area when the signal is becoming very challenging. So this is where they understand that the Halo is the ultimate solution for those kind of application. So we are very happy to support this as enabler. Again, we're not on the main stage, but we are the Elsight that is enabling all those operations, which is always nice to see, you know, going the streets of Tel Aviv in the central city in Israel, seeing all those drones flying above your head, and understand that we're enabling the future infrastructure, basically. And this is how it will look like. That is extremely compelling and extremely exciting for us in Elsight, and in general for the industry in Israel, which is quite small. You know, Israel is small, but very innovative and have very great solutions here. Like you mentioned, you have a couple of other folks from Israel. I think we have a good industry here, and I think the regulatory authority is trying to push it forward just to have a spotlight to understand how it will look like in the future, and this is what NAMA program is doing.
Well, it is, Yoav, and you know, I would say about Israel, especially what you're doing in the drone industry, I'd call you small but mighty. And you know what I will also say, you know, remind me, there were 10,000 or more drone flights that we're talking about, drone deliveries in particular, that Elsight enabled with 100% success rate. Is that right? During the phases in the fall?
Yeah, correct. That was during 2 weeks. I think it was in October, if I recall correctly, the dates. They completed, yeah, then I think it was even closer to 12,000 flights, operations, successful operation, which is, like I said, this is a small, it's still a small scale. I think that this industry will go into much bigger number than this. But again, doing it in the same airspace with different manufacturers, with different operators, I think it gives a good insight of how it will look like in the future and how the airspace should be managed.
Well, look, the fact that you all started in the military, right, and have bridged over to the civilian sector, you know, that is, I think, a typical path for many technology companies, especially in the United States, with our dual use technologies and technology transfer type ecosystem that we have here. But you know, you all are global, right? So we're talking about Israel, what you're doing there, but clearly what you're doing is bigger than Israel. It is global. Speaking of global, Yoav, before we get into some of the work you're doing globally, including in the United States, I do want to give a shout out to Marshall Nelson from Mitchell's Plain, Cape Town, South Africa. So we do have a global audience here, and Marshall is coming to us from South Africa. Says, Don, thanks so much. Thanks for the show, much appreciated. Greetings from South Africa. And then we've got Divyank Bagrecha saying drones for the future, 100%. So not sure where Divyank is coming to us from, but I suspect it may not be from Israel or the United States, but so great to have you all out there. Let's talk about that then, your global presence, because I think you've had some big moves, some big agreements that happened from November, our last podcast, until now. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, first of all, we are onboarding more and more partners, and partners can be either drone manufacturers, the platform manufacturer, or the drone operators, the service provider. Those are the kind of customers we usually work with, the partners we usually work with. And we have a lot of them, and we are gaining our equity, our brand equity within this industry, and we see how people start to understand that this is the right solution moving forward. In terms of BVLOS, I'm talking about those who are going beyond visual line of sight.
Yes.
So we have a couple of very interesting new partners, including in the States, to mention few. So I can mention DroneUp, which is doing great as a drone service provider for different use cases, from last mile deliveries for big retails to search and rescue and inspection, etc., etc. You can mention Sprite, Air Methods company that also have their healthcare services that they just starting to build, and it looks extremely promising. And many others, many other partners we work with under different, like I said, under different use cases and application, because basically looking on our solution, the good thing about that is you can give it a reference to, you know, for enabling technology in any other industry. And we are basically redundant or agnostic, sorry, not redundant, we're agnostic to the platform. So we can sit on any kind of platform doing whatever application needs to get done, from, like I said, logistics, security, defense, military, homeland security, etc., etc. And all of those that needs to go beyond visual line of sight, this is what those that we are support, and we are, it's a good place to say that we are constantly looking for new partners to get on board, or even if you are just someone who wants to understand how BVLOS will look like as we see it, or you actually working on a BVLOS project, we will be more than happy to enable it.
Well, those are definitely big names, Yoav. And, you know, I know you're also, I believe you're also working with the United States Air Force, maybe AFWorks, you know, since we're kind of talking about dual use technologies, you know, so I expect to see even more of this going forward. And that maybe that's a great way to ask the next question, which is, you know, we just heard you're going to be involved in these, I guess, the 5th phase of the NAMA trials in Israel next month. What else can we expect from Elsight going forward? Do you have anything kind of on the short-term horizon?
Yeah, so we have many. In terms of the technology, we're putting more and more features into our product to provide a broader solution. So from remote AD application, 5G obviously, which is obvious, having a cellular mapping coverage so you can have more insight about the environment around you, etc., etc. So many features that, again, helping to enable the BVLOS in general. Now, looking forward, we see ourselves as a technology enabler in general, not necessarily for the connectivity. Because we're working with all those great partners, we see different challenges or different opportunities that can be solved or can be accelerated with technology. And this is what we're looking at from a product development perspective. So this is something that we're constantly working on. And in terms of other solutions, so yeah, we have Naama. We will be in the next AUVSI Exponential in April, so we will be more than happy to meet everyone. Obviously, we'll meet in person. Finally, we'll meet in person. So yeah, we have a lot of events coming up, and if you want to follow it, you can follow us in all the social media, our website, etc., etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so looking forward to meeting you in person finally, Yoav, and Ben Gross, who works with you, and I believe Roe is going to be there. And everybody just, look, I'm just going to give a shameless plug. I'm not going to wait till the end. Just a good time to do it. I wanted to thank Elsight also for being a Friends of Law Tech Connect sponsor. So, I'm putting on this Law Tech Connect workshop, and I just want to foot stomp. This is not for lawyers only. This is for industry. I mean, I created my company P3 Tech really to put on these kind of events to get lawyers and industry in the same room, talking through the tough issues. And Ben is going to be on the autonomy, legal issues and autonomy enabling technology panel with other rock stars besides Ben, like Jonathan Ruprecht and Jennifer Richter, an expert in spectrum law. So we'll have a little thing at the end. If you haven't signed up, sign up. If you're U.S. government, if you're military, faculty, nonprofit, American Bar Association, Florida Bar Association member, DM me and I will give you a $100 promo code. Or you know what? Just DM me anyway, and we'll talk. By the way, Divyank is coming to us from India. So I had asked that, and so great to see India represented. So many folks from India doing great things as well. Really exciting. So great, going to be looking forward to AUVSI, Yoav, and collaborating with you there. Let's see. What else did I want to ask you? What else, anything else? We're getting kind of close to the end here. What else would you want to kind of leave the audience with? How can they reach you? What else can they expect to see? Where else can they find you?
So I think maybe just elaborate a little more about a point you mentioned before, that many technologies started in the military or the Department of Defense and migrate into the civilian world. And I think what we're seeing with the unmanned, I'll call it infrastructure, just like happened, by the way, with the internet, with the GPS, other infrastructure that today that are extremely obvious for us that we're using them as a civilians, but
Absolutely.
don't forget that those started in the military.
Yes.
I think if we're looking on the unmanned, that will be the next infrastructure. So if the internet was the infrastructure migrating from the military to the civilians in the 1890s of the last century, now we're talking about the physical infrastructure that will create it around us and will be able to solve so many challenges, and so to provide so many opportunities for people to have their life much more easy, I would say, and to have much better service in general in so many different applications and purposes. I think this is what we will see moving forward, and it will take time. We'll need to have some patience, but like I said, like I start with, I think we currently have the perfect storm as an industry in general, and specifically Elsight have a very good position to be the enabler for this infrastructure and to be the industry standard, if you like, for BVLOS operation, because I think the industry will scale only if the BVLOS will take place. Otherwise, it won't make sense to scale to the full potential. I mean, obviously there is a lot of application that can be done within line of sight. But if we're talking about full scale, that might be not only BVLOS in terms of literally beyond visual line of sight, but also BVLOS in terms of one operator operating many drones, fleet of drones or swarm of drones to operate to whatever use case needs to get done. About connecting Elsight, so like I said before, feel free to contact us, me directly on LinkedIn or any other media. We have our website, elsight.com. Feel free to approach us with any question or anything you have to elaborate or anything you would like to share. We always I just spoke with Zon before the show, that we always like to speak with people, understand new challenges, understand new initiatives, etc., etc. So we'll be more than happy to be in contact with all of you.
Absolutely. You just raised a couple other points here. You have this idea that for the industry the drone industry commercially to really grow beyond visual line of sight is that thing that really needs to happen. And I'd be remiss just because I am a licensed attorney not to mention that the FAA is working on that here in the United States. I know globally there's a movement afoot. Here we have the Beyond Visual Line of Sight Advisory Rulemaking Committee, that's out there churning away, providing recommendations to the FAA. Hopefully we will see some kind of a, notice of public rulemaking, maybe this year. I mean, that would be spectacular. I believe Canada, pushed out some initial low risk operation based on the JARA SORA, and things like this. So, and I know you follow a lot of the European regulations and what's happening there. But I agree, Yoav. I think these are exciting times, and this idea of digital infrastructure and what you all bring to the fight, literally, military-wise, commercially, it is significant. And to build those, getting back to where we started, building those safety cases to show that this is reliable, it is repeatable, that things are not going to be dropping out of the sky or hijacked or spoofed. That's what's going to get the regulators to approve these operations. The rules and the safety, they all go hand in hand. And so thank you for what you're doing with regard to that. I believe you all are plugged in the R&D world too, here and there, working with some folks possibly in the United States. I don't know, we have maybe 3 minutes if you want to kind of mention, not only this NAMA group that you're working with and some of the real world operations with folks like DroneUp, but on the R&D side, which is going to be so critical to moving this industry forward.
Absolutely. So I think that, currently this market is extremely fragmented, and it will, again, if we're talking about how to grow to the full potential, it will go through partnerships of companies that are partnering for enabling technologies, do R&D projects together to provide more solutions or to provide these solutions that the market needs. So we also always looking for partnership in terms of, again, BVLOS enablement technologies, and not only BVLOS, everything that can solve problems of, even for concept of operation, for ConOps purposes or flying purposes or whatever, everything that's related within this industry, we're always more than happy to work, and we work with some of the most amazing companies within this industry that are also tech companies to provide more solutions, pre-integrated solutions to the customers or to the end users, because I think that in the end of the day, we need to create kind of an ecosystem that works together and fully integrated together, like standards as standard. So any kind of technology will be able to integrate relatively easy. So absolutely, we're doing a lot of those R&D projects, and you're fully right on this point. We'll be more than happy to collaborate with interesting technologies.
Well, and as we kind of wrap it up here, just again to foot stomp this idea of your Halo technology being used for one-to-many drone operations, so not just one-to-one, which is also critical, beyond visual line of sight, multi-domain, air, land, sea, two-way communications, and fully autonomous and enabled by artificial intelligence. I mean, if I were to summarize, that's kind of, I think, the 30-second elevator speech I would give about what you all are doing. And, so thank you so much, Yoav, for taking the time to walk us through this, your, excuse me, your history and, kind of what you've been doing since November, what you plan to do going forward. And again, everybody, find both of us running around the floor there at Exponential. Come to the Law Tech Connect event, meet Ben Gross, hear what he has to say in person, and so many other experts. So, Yoav, it is time for us to close. So once again, thank you, Northrop Grumman, for the spectacular month. Thank you, Carahsoft, for bringing your partners to this podcast. And I just wanted to tell everybody, tomorrow we kick off a new theme for the month of March, which is going to be industry diversity. I'm so excited to announce Iris Automation is going to be sponsoring that month. And our first guest on Clubhouse tomorrow, 11 a.m. Mountain, is going to be Lori DeMatteis. She's the vice president, the global vice president of sales and marketing and customer relations. So join us with Lori tomorrow. She was one of the keynote speakers at the Women in Drones, Women to Watch awards program at CES in Las Vegas, and absolutely spectacular. So I reached out to her and I said, you have to kick off our month. So she's going to do that tomorrow. That's all she wrote, everybody. So this is a wrap. I just want to say to all of our pilots out there, fly safe, and we are out here.